Hey guys, Bread God Gaming here. Hope you're having a good day. This is my casual guide on how to become the Emperor of China in CK3's All Under Heaven DLC. We're gonna go into create a custom character here. I made my guy 46 years old, so we can start out with some lifestyle traits. And for the education, I chose the Astute Intellectual. This is because it's also a virtue in my religion, and it's gonna give us a good amount of learning lifestyle experience. For personality traits, I picked Eccentric for the lifestyle experience. This applies to all lifestyles, which is really nice. It does give me more stress gain, so I have to be more careful of my stress management. For the other traits, I have Herculean and Strong. Since I'm already middle-aged, I'm going to need all the time I can get when I try to become Emperor. I have Irritable just for some stress management. And finally, I have Confucian Education. This is going to give us some learning, but this trait also counts as bonus when doing exam scoring, as we're going to see later. For stats, you mainly want learning, so I put 12 points into here. I also put some extra points into Marshal and Stewardship because these two skills also increase your chance of succeeding at tests. Learning overall is going to be your biggest stat because most of the event checks are going to be based on learning. But for the overall exam score, it's going to use all three of these. And I just had one extra point, so I'm going to just put in prowess. So we're going to finalize our character here. So this is my third run trying to become Emperor. So along the way, I'll try to give a general guide of things, but there still might be stuff that I haven't found out or that I'm missing. So comment down below if you have any suggestions. We're going to be immediately greeted by the Dynastic Cycle, which is a new mechanic, but I'm going to explain stuff as they become important. So for now, let's just skip this. The first event here is we can either choose to focus on merit and also Confucian education experience, or we can choose on influence. In general, in the early game, you're going to want to focus on getting more merit, since that's going to actually increase your succession score to climb the ranks, versus influence, I think, is more of a late game thing, like trying to maintain the Emperorhood. So let's go for the first one here. Let me go through some basic stuff. I'm going to go for learning, and we're going to go for scholarship focus just to get as much learning as we can. And I'm going to be working on maxing the whole of body tree just so I could live longer, because again, my guy is already middle-aged. It would have been nicer if I got scholar because this is also virtuous, but theologian still gives me learning, so I don't mind. Next, let me just do some other housekeeping. So let's go find a wife, and I'm going to look for someone with the highest learning, stewardship, or marshal, whichever one's the highest. So it looks like 20 was the highest, so I'm going to marry them. And until we become emperor, there's actually no legitimacy, so it doesn't matter that she's lowborn. So let's get her married to me. Let's go fix her a council. So let me just assign at least an estate manager because I'm going to need as much gold as I can because we're really poor right now. And then the other one doesn't really matter. I'll just assign whatever I can. It's okay if some are missing. And the first thing to discuss is the merit rank at the bottom left here. This is the new system to determine the line of succession for titles and if you can be appointed to a governorship. There's 9 ranks here, with the first rank being we can be appointed to counties, the 7th rank we can be appointed to duchies, the 5th to kingdoms, the 3rd to empires. In the middle here, you'll see that we can only be appointed up to the 8th rank. And in order to increase this rank, we're going to need to take tests at the bottom here. We're not a child anymore, so we can't take the children's exam, but we can take the provincial exam, which is the local exam activity. And then these next two are the capital exam activity. You're going to need to first pass this exam in order to continue on to this exam within the same event, which we'll see later. But basically, we're going to want to, in the activity tab, look out for exams that pop up and just attend as many as we can to prove that we are the best student here. And as your merit rank goes up, you'll see if we click on this title, the line of succession is mainly at the bottom left, determined by the rank of merit that the person has, and then it's going to be by their candidate score. And you can see that this guy here has a candidate score of 9, but because his merit rank is 2nd, he's going to be higher in line than this guy who's 3rd. Although when this guy reaches 2nd, he's going to come all the way up to the front. So our goal is to increase our merit as much as possible, pass all the exams, and then be appointed to a governorship. So naturally, we might have some merit gain. This can be based on our new estate or us being an elder. So if we click on ourselves, we actually have an elder already. If you didn't have an elder, you can right click yourself and there's going to be find elder button. You basically just want to find yourself an elder, and that way you can at least get a little bit of merit. And either from your elder, you can request a mentorship. You could pick yourself. This basically lets you improve your merit. You can study some Confucian trait XP, or you can study whatever trait that this guy has. If you can't find the elder here, or if you need someone else, you can always click the next button here, which is the candidate list for the highest title you can achieve. And usually the people above you have higher ranks, so usually you can can request a mentorship from them. So that's one option. You can always request a mentorship. So let's say we get from this guy, we're going to ask him to improve our merit, and it's going to show up as a scheme here. So let me just pass a few days. And this is another event that's going to ask to pursue either civilian career or a military career. For now, let's just pick the civilian career, and I'm going to show you what that means as well. If you come down here, you'll see that we're the civilian career path, and let's just click on this guy here. For Intendants, this is going to be a civilian title. So the inheritors are going to be by celestial appointment versus, let's say, this title. This guy's name is a commandant, and he's going to be celestial commander title. The main difference is just that civilian is going to be mainly based on your learning skills and your stewardship and marshal, versus for commandants, because they're military governorships, they're going to be more based on if they have like any military traits. Seems like both of these guys don't have any, so they're not super competent military governors. If we also look at our liege's council, instead of the usual council, there's now going to be 3 department heads. So the top 2 here are 2 civilian paths, and the third is a military path. So he's the Grand Marshal, who's kind of cool because he can start grand campaigns. And one of these 3 guys, usually the Grand Chancellor by default, is going to be the Secretary Director of the Emperor. And this is one of the paths to become the Emperor, is you become the Secretary Director, because if you go to power sharing, eventually this guy can just swing it all the way to level 6 and then just overthrow the Emperor. So that's one way. We're trying to aim for his position so that we can try to take over the realm from the inside. Otherwise, you're going to need a claim, which we don't have. And because there's 2 civilian, I usually just recommend civilian unless you're trying a military playthrough. I found that civilians tend to have an easier time to become Emperor. At the very bottom here are also different ministers, and these are also positions that we're going to aim for, and you can get this for civilian or military, but again, mostly civilian is easier. Okay, so this mentorship thing has popped up. So every 8 months, this guy's either going to help give us some merit or maybe teach us some skills. So we'll let that fire in a bit. For now, it looks like an exam has popped up, so we're definitely going to want to attend the exams since this is the primary way of gaining more merit. And I'm also married now, so let me set my wife to patronage. That way I have an amazing 38 learning. So let's just focus on this exam and see how it goes. So the first option here decides if you want to cheat or if you want to do it legit. Cheating uses gold, intrigue, and diplomacy. If your stats are terrible, then cheat. But if you have around 20 in learning and 10 total stats between marshal and stewardship, then you can probably pass it the legit way. For the first few decisions, there's going to be a chance to get exam advantage, which since this is a learning challenge, I basically have a guaranteed chance. And every exam advantage is going to increase your success chance. So if you can, try to always get the exam advantage. So it's actually worth the stress there. So after a while, you're going to notice all the options are really similar. So these events kind of get a little bit boring. I just choose the ones that give me the most merit. For this one, you can either get more lifestyle experience or a little bit of merit, but we don't want to overstress. So let's do that one. And now it's for the actual test. So you can see it's learning, marshal, and stewardship to score the exam. But because we had a lot of learning, we passed those other events a little better. Have a critical success, so that's nice. And it's also really nice because you can lose some stress. I did pass the provincial exam, so if you look at us, we now can reach up to the 6th rank, which makes it so that we can almost get to the kingdom tier. So this is a great day. At the bottom here, you can see that we gained some mentorship from an elder. And if you didn't want to do it this way, you can also do a different event, which is called Study the Confucian Classics. This can give you some merits, but also Confucian education trait or poet trait experience. And you can be super studious, but have a lot of stress, or you can be in the middle or just no extra time. I usually pick the middle because that's the pretty good middle ground there. And you'll see that it took over the mentorship scheme, so you can only have one of them. And between them, I think study's better. So I usually just stick with this. Another thing we can also do is to get an erudite instructor. And we're not here for these bonuses, and we're actually here just for teach court because we can possibly get some skills. It does cost some prestige and we're negative, but we're going to get more later and we don't need it right now anyway. All right, here's our study event. We finally succeeded this one. So we can either get Confucian trait experience or guaranteed experience. So we'll probably go for the middle one here. And there's really not much you could do except wait. Unless you have a lot of like intrigue or something, then you can click on the list of candidates and try to just murder everyone that's above you. And you can see that we're the highest 9th rank person. And even though these guys have lower candidate scores, it's merely because their rank is higher. So there's not much I could do right now to push myself up there. I will show you that if you right click yourself, you can just promote yourself. This will increase your candidate score. So you can always do this every 10 years. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just passing time quickly, waiting for an exam to pop up. And sometimes I'll just keep this tab open in case this notification doesn't come quick enough. So let's go to this guy's exam. And another tip I'll show you now is that any of these crowns are going to actually have merit gain versus the other ones are just for experience or piety. We also don't want to miss this test. So when you customize routes, don't customize the route going to the destination, but on the way home, we can click on this to take a detour and we can grab all this merit and experience. So that's a nice little thing you can do. And we can go wherever we want as long as they'll allow us. So we just grab those 2 spots for experience. And if you need a caravan master, make sure you're not going to die. Like he doesn't really cost that much money. So that's just some free merit on the way back home. And because this is a local exam, you'll see that we actually assist the exam now because we've already passed the exam. We can't take it again. Instead, we're going to gain a little bit of merit, but not as much as before. So there is no choice to cheat or anything because we're not taking the exam. We're just grading people. Between these, I could get merit or Confucian trait. Until I max out my Confucian trait, I'm actually going to prefer the experience over the merit for now, since this is going to help me pass that palace exam. And there we go. We finally got appointed to some things. All right, we can either develop them and get this little modifier, but at the cost of stress, or I could just get a free inspection activity or stress loss. I like that free inspection. You'll see that we're doing that little detour back home. So we're going to be able to pick up that merit from visiting that capital. Now we're rerouted to go to our new home down over here. Usually there's going to be some events where you can manage the stewardship here, but I didn't get one. Well, maybe we'll see one later. Since we're a governor now, you'll see that there's a new resource, which is Treasury. Basically, if you look at the amount, you'll see that actually is coming from our tax contribution of 5.8. So if I click myself and I modify my administration, you'll see all the tax that I'm paying to my liege, and it actually comes back to me as a percentage of Treasury. So this is thematically, as the text implies here, represents assets that can only be used for government purposes versus personal gold is for whatever I want to spend it with. Practically speaking, the gold is going to be what you're going to use to upgrade like your estate buildings versus now if we look at our domains here, you see that all the costs are actually in Treasury. So this mechanic is just forcing the governors to use most of the taxes to develop the lands, trying to not have corruption. You also notice that for military, your private army, which we can't have, is going to be on gold versus the provincial armies, which are based on the titles, although we don't have any since we're a civilian vassal, but they're going to be based on Treasury. I'll show you that later. So that's all for the Treasury mechanic at our level. It basically is just to force us to use most of the taxes to develop the lands. And as a governor, we are incentivized because once you finish a building, you'll actually get some merit. So every time you have enough Treasury, just build whatever thing that has taxes. That way you could build more. So in a couple months, I could build that hunting ground. In the meantime, let's actually go to activities. And now that we have that free inspection, let's do honor capital. Okay, so we're here with the inspection title. And naturally, you might want to improve the taxes. This will give you some more Treasury. But actually, I would recommend increasing popular opinion. The reason why, if we look at the candidate score, part of the score is the capital's popular opinion. It's more important to get higher candidacy so you can always get the better titles. And by the way, you might have noticed when we do get appointed, we can't be appointed again. But actually, if in the decisions, you do want to resume new appointments, which I'll turn this on to always remind myself to always enable myself to be appointed because there's a chance that I can get either a better county or if my rank goes up, I can always be appointed to a higher ranking county. So we'll do this after my inspection. One of the inspection events, which is why you should always inspect, it actually gives you a free building. So either a small stables or a small harbor. Between the two, I'm going to just pick the one that has gold production. And you're going to see because we've built something, we've done the duties of a governor and we've actually gained some merit. So that's why while we're a governor, we always want to just keep building. All right, we didn't succeed at the inspection, but we still got some merit. And now that the inspection is done, I'm going to just resume new appointments. That way I can be appointed for something. And it looks like there's going to be another exam we can participate for merit. The other thing though is now that we are a governor ourselves, we can actually host a local exam at the cost of some Treasury. If you actually look at your current situation, you can actually request some support from the Minister of Rights. And for some influence, you can actually host the exam for free. We actually shouldn't host exams right now, but let's do one just to show how it looks as a host. We can also request for some treasury, which is good for the early game. Okay, once we get our treasury, all right, let's build something with taxes. So hunting grounds has taxes and is the cheapest, so we'll do that. And upgrading buildings doesn't give that much more merit than level 1 buildings. So first fill out the slots with level 1 buildings that have tax. We can host our own exam for free, so let's host that. For the options, because this is free, we can actually just increase it to the max. We don't use legitimacy, but there's more entrants, so usually there's more merit. For this one, I couldn't figure out the math. Basically, you can make the passing grade higher, meaning you can get more legitimacy, but it also means less entrants versus less passing grades, so maybe less merit. I usually do either mediocre or high grade. For here, you can either scout for talents or you can favor your own dynasty members, but since I have no kids, we don't have to do that right now. So let's get that exam started as well. And here's another study event we got. So we can actually get an exam advantage at the next capital exam. So we're going to definitely take that. For these choices, you're just choosing who can have an increased chance to succeed. But for this, I would just focus on the resource you want. Okay, so the exam finished. We got some influence, some merit. And although I host that exam for a example, I actually would not host any exams or join any exams, only because you want to wait for this capital exam. And if you are attending your own exam, you actually can't go to the capital exam. In about a year, this capital exam is going to start, and that's the main way to increase your rank and get massive merit. So be mindful of when the capital exam might happen, which is about every 5 years. But for now, I'm just going to pass a lot of time. Okay, here we go. So finally, the capital exam has popped up. This is what we've been waiting for, so let's definitely join this. You'll see that there's this event. You have to relinquish governorship in order to go back to school. So that's okay. We are not a governor anymore, so I won't get that credit, but you do need this in order to take that capital exam. So it's definitely worth it. For the capital exam, we're just going to pick whatever options that gives us the advantages. So here's 2 advantages, and here our learning's super good, so we probably will get another advantage. So there's 3. And actually our merit rank just increased, so you get this little event and you can either get some more monthly merits at more stress gain or just lose some stress. Although 15% sounds a lot, if you look at yourself here, you only get 1.4 per month. So if we do that, we get like 0.2 more. So it's really not that much. So I personally wouldn't take that choice because of the stress gain, but I just want to show you how small this bonus would be. Anyways, let's get some more advantages here. All right, cool. The test has started. So let's see if we succeed. Our poems are right. Let's hope again. Okay, great success. So this means that we've passed the Metropolitan exam and that we are one of the most promising scholars in the realm. So we get a little bit of merits. So you'll see that we're going to enter the palace to take that next exam. So in front of the emperor, you can either spend a little prestige for guaranteed 10, or if your skill is high enough, which again, it's learning, you can have a massive increase to your score. So definitely worth it. So great success. So really good. Cool. All right, so you see we've passed the palace exam and we've gained a massive amount of merit. Now we are 6th rank, so we can get duchy tiers. We're just a little shy of being able to get the kingdom tier. Okay, so let's now go to the estate. We have a little bit of gold stocked up. It's the usual with the estate. You have the manor with some mini upgrades and also a bunch of different buildings. I'm just going to point out a few recommendations. So for the manor, in the early game, I would say most things that have Confucian experience gain is pretty nice because that makes it improve faster. Although now I don't have to worry about it as much because I've already taken the palace exam. Otherwise, if you scroll down, private study is nice because it gives you learning lifestyle and Confucian experience. The other ones would be like the prefect's office or commander study. This gives you more candidate score. And finally, I personally like servants' quarters because as you're going to see later, we're going to need a lot of intrigue in order to really get ourselves to the final hurdle of becoming an emperor. For the other buildings, I would say probably the market is one of the most useful ones because you get more powerful family rating. And at the max level, you see you get a lot more merit when you construct buildings in the counties. So remember we had that little merit gain from building stuff. This will basically double it. So this makes it so that grind for the merits a little faster. Everything else though is your personal decision. I would say stuff that gives taxes or influence is nice, and even disease resistance, because you basically have a whole life of needing to grind this merit. So you definitely don't want your character to die because your heirs are not going to inherit any of this merit. And some of the other upgrades, like they give you a little bit of merit, but again, it's like 0.5% 80% of this like really small base amount, but I really don't think these things are worth it. The base amount is just so small. And by the time you can increase this, that we'll see later, you're not going to need it. So I would just focus on the other recommendations like the experience or the intrigue stuff, or even just straight taxes and influence. I'm now a governor of a duchy. So you'll see that the monthly merit you gain is a lot. And that's basically because of all the taxes we pay. So the more taxes we pay, the more merit we're going to gain. We're going to gain 80% of all the taxes that we pay. So that's why the base merit's not that important. You just want to get higher ranking so you can get as much of this monthly merit as you can. And this is also for standard administration. If you go to your liege, sometimes you can modify it for where there's more merit, but right now we actually don't have the option I want. So I'll show you later. And there's like the clerk stats that gives you a little more monthly merit per total tax paid, but you'll see that the amount's like 0.8%. So like 0.8% versus like 80%, that's really not worth it. But this was the default upgrade that came with the building, so I'm not going to bother to destroy it. We're going to go for our treasury and just build whatever we can to gain that merit. It looks like stuff is already in progress, so that's good for us. And we see this decision pop up again. So I'm going to actually wait until we get to 5th rank so that we're in line for kingdom tier titles, because I don't want to jump around the duchy titles, because everything that's in progress of building right now, I want to get credit for that so I get the merit, versus if I get appointed to another duchy, then I'm not going to get the credit for these. And also, since we passed the palace exam, we actually don't need to worry about attending the palace exam. So now we are going to go to every exam and debate. So just get as much merit as I can here. We got to the next rank. So since I'm now eligible for kingdoms, I'm going to actually go and resume appointments as soon as I get home. All right, and I have a son and heir, so let's educate him. Let's make sure he's learning, because we need to regrind our way up there in case we die. And yeah, I was mentioning about regrind our way up there, and that's because if we die, we basically lose all this progress. Our heir has to restart at 0. So I think health is super important when you're a scholar of the Chinese Empire. So let's resume new appointments. You'll see that we are now 25th in rank for candidacy of a kingdom. And if we actually check these kingdoms, you see that these guys get way more merit. Like this guy even gets 161, and that's because if you look, he has a better contract that gives him 240% of the taxes paid. So we want like his circuit, and you'll see we're 5th in line, which is why I recommended the intrigue stuff, because, you know, if these guys were all to disappear, then we would become the next intendant over here. So my intrigue's not good enough. It actually could be the time for me to divorce my current wife, and let's go look for someone who has massive amounts of intrigue. So you're greedy and deceitful, but I'm cool with that. And I have vassals now who will lose opinion, but again, we don't really care because we're not going to be here for long. And let's get her to intrigue. Let's also make sure we have our own spy master. Now that I have people, I might as well just put things here. I'm just going to leave everything as is because I don't really need anything. All right, at least we have 10 intrigue. And once I finish this tree, I'll actually go for the intrigue tree. And here's actually that one stewardship event I was talking about. So this is just going to give you any of those resources. I get a little governor trade experience, and I'm going to keep upgrading the servants' quarters for more intrigue experience. Okay, and unfortunately, we got booted to another duchy, and it looks like those things just finished building, but we didn't get the credit for it, unfortunately. For this governorship, we get way less, so we definitely don't want to be in this governorship. Okay, and I immediately became another governor. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, this one's not terrible. It's a little better. You're gonna get ping-ponged around. We just hope to get ping-ponged to a kingdom. In the meantime, let's just try to build some stuff possible. All right, and this guy wants us to join the advancement movement. Now I'll quickly talk about the movements which are in the dynastic cycle and political movements in relation to how it matters for us as a governor. So currently we're in the pro-song movement. We get these benefits versus this guy wants us to be in the advancement movement. We'll get these benefits instead, which actually you see the building construction cost and time. That will make it so that the buildings we build are finished much faster and we'll get this merit much quicker. However, if you take a look at the candidate score, as long as you're part of the pro-song movement, you already get plus 20 candidate score. And another thing would be, if you look at the movement here, the Son of Heaven favors this expansion movement. So if you want to be part of this movement as well, you actually can still get the candidate score. So this guy's part of the expansion, you'll see that he actually gets the favored. But if you don't want to have to keep changing movements or whatever to get that bonus, you could just stay in pro-song and you'll always get that plus 20. So that's why I recommend staying here. Or if you're, doing other stuff, you can always get the other benefits by just using some influence to just join that movement. Or you could be cheap and just wait for them to personally invite you there. At the top here, you also see there's movement power, which is just based on these factors here, mostly by how many disciples you have. I'll show you how to do that later. For movement power, it's only important that you have 800 to do raid interaction, which I don't think we really need on our grind up, but we do want to be movement leader later. I'll show you how to do that once we get a kingdom tier title. And one other thing I want to say is if you look at your own title, you'll see that the prominence score here is a new thing. Each of these titles, you can see they have a different prominence. So actually the title we have is 17th, and by default, you will only be appointed to a new title if the prominence is higher than your current one. So like I won't ever be appointed to something lower than 17th. That doesn't necessarily mean though that my title is better. Like if we check this guy, he gets like more merit than I do, even though I control this title here, I only get 13. But it's just for figuring out like which titles you can get to naturally. We're not interested in that. We're interested in the kingdom title, which remind myself to resume new appointment. Let's see how far we are from here. So we're 6th in line. Same thing, it's always this meddlesome merit rank. So not much we could do except we can try to host exams when the minister can give us some more income. I did get this little scroll for more monthly merits, but that 4% is just applied here, which is like almost nothing. And let's see if I can promote myself now. This is the same scheme from like a long time ago. So now we're promoted for 10 years and we're the highest 5th rank candidate. But you can see even this guy with a score of 3 just because his rank's higher, unfortunately. This guy didn't even pass the palace exam. How sad. Okay, we can get some treasury and we can get some money for the free exam. Let's host an exam and we're gonna just try to build some stuff. Let's go for the stuff with the most tax. That's gonna cost 200. I'll just do it just to show you that the merit you gain is really not that much. This event is mentioning the Silk Road. Let's quickly just look at it to briefly discuss it. The Silk Road is part of the situations, and you'll see this is the road that leads all the way to the west, and basically each of these capital spots, like here's the marketplace, it's right here. This county is going to get certain Silk Road bonuses, and right now it's getting this steady trading bonus because right now this little slider is towards more peace. So every year that the cycle's stable and that there's peace, this slider is going to go more towards here, versus if there's more wars, it's going to go this way. And the bonuses for each area and person is just going to depend on where this slider is. So it's just a small little bonus for everything that's along this path, including like things that are here, but not for things that are not along the actual path. There is also, however, innovations. So any innovation that the Hans have discovered, you'll see that some of them, like fire medicine, it's only required if you're Chinese or if you're along the Silk Road. So if we like take a look at these cultures, we'll see that these guys actually have access to those innovations as well, just for being along the Silk Road. But other than that, there's really not much else. It's just little bonuses for things that are along the road, and also cultures can get certain innovations, but not much you need to worry about. And if you want to participate, if you're a European country, just move over towards the Silk Road and get all the innovations and then go back. Okay, so you can see we have the upgraded building of hamlets and the level 1 building, but both of them give basically the same merit. So in terms of efficiency, if you can just first fill out all the slots and then upgrade the buildings, which reminds me, now I'm going to resume new appointments. Okay, I have consumption, so I'll do that later. A good thing I have all the health bonuses, otherwise I could just die and lose all of this merit progress. And my murder scheme is basically maxed out, so let's start getting rid of these guys. All right, I became a murderer, but that is bound to happen on my way up, so I'm okay with that. He's 3rd rank, so he's higher than me, so he needs to go, but no one wants to join. So now I have to manually do it. So all this gold and prestige for now is to mainly get people to join me. I am still sick, so unfortunately I can't resume appointments. You know, I was progressing pretty well, but this consumption thing is kind of hindering me. Okay, and as I say that, I lose consumption. Cool, so let's resume new appointments. We're 46 in line for kingdom, but if we take a look at, let's say this one, we're 7th in line. I don't even know where this guy is anymore. Okay, I don't even need to murder this guy anymore, so let's get rid of maybe like this guy, and let me see if I have a better spy master. If I don't, let's see if I can hire someone. So let's go inside range, not a ruler. And let's see if I can invite anyone, maybe even arrange marriage with like a courtier. Okay, so he'll actually come marry once she turns 16, so a couple of months. Okay, so now he's here. Let's get that guy so we can get these things. You can actually check to see of the kingdom titles if there's one like where you're the highest in. You'll see that we're not even here because these guys are all like military governors. So let's just keep working on getting ourselves up there. Took 20 years to get to the 3rd rank, and we just got to make sure these guys disappear. This guy's candidate score is the same as us, but actually one more thing we could do is we can actually use influence to give ourselves some more score, or if we have an elder, we can ask him for some support. So actually the guy I'm trying to murder is my elder. Let's ask him for candidate score. Nope, he doesn't want to. So let's stop murdering him because this is a waste of time. Let's see if I can murder maybe this guy. It's a moderate chance. Okay, that's really good. Oh, we don't even need to murder him anymore. We're first in line. So oh, okay, he died. And you can see we were in line, but this guy's rank 2, so let's get rid of him. Okay, this is why intrigue is very important. All right, hopefully we succeed. All right, we didn't kill him, unfortunately. And this would be a time where raiding the estate is useful to try to kill him, but you need a lot of movement power. Just to show you how to do it, basically, if we go back to the political movements here, we are currently in this movement. So the fastest way I found to get movement power is you click on a movement that's not yours. So let's say advancement. You come up here to this character tab here. So once you're here, you can right click some guys and you can see there's an ask to join movement. And you'll see that if he were to become a disciple, then he would add part of this movement power to me. But it literally has to say will become disciple. So let me look for someone who else, like this guy, he'll become our disciple. And actually, I don't need to give him any prestige or bribes. I do have to spend some influence. So I would say the influence for this little amount of merit is not super worth it unless you're literally trying to get enough movement power in order to like raid an estate or something. So I'm just going to look for some people that will become my disciple. If you click on yourself and go to relationships, once they do pop up, you'll see how many max amount of disciples you can have. So I can have up to 5 as the base. All right, so once all of them join, you can see the move power here actually doesn't really make sense. Like my disciple power is already almost all of my current power. It's because your movement power is recalculated at the beginning of every year. So if we would just wait to the new year, now you can see that my movement power is now properly added up. I am a little short of 800 to raid, but that was just to show you how to get movement power. If you need some more movement power inside the manor, there's also the Dynastic Pavilion. This will actually give you some more movement power up to 40, although you do need to be a movement leader. And if you get to the final legacy perk of the new virtue track, you can get the ancestral gate building, which gives you movement power per splendor. And I'll also show you how to become the movement leader. What you want to do is you want to host a debate. This debate can give yourself movement power and actually a little bit of merit, but mainly it's so you can become the leader of the movement. Sometimes you'll see that someone else has more power, but they're not the leader. And that's because they need to actually take the debate. The debate movement is to become the leader. And unfortunately, the guy's traveling. Imperial debate is if you ask the Son of Heaven to make your movement the favored movement, which we don't really need to do. So I'll just wait for this guy to stop traveling. All right, so he's traveled back. So now if we go debate, we can debate him to become our movement leader. This also is one way if you can actually gain some disciples here as well. If you don't have the influence or don't want to spend the influence. Meanwhile, I'm going to check on progress. It looks like we're next in line. So let me try to murder this guy. Looks like our chance is pretty good. I'm going to see if I can increase it a little more. All right. Hopefully it shouldn't be too long before we become a king level governor. All right. So we're at the debate now. And the bottom here is just a scale of how likely we're going to win versus how likely we're going to lose and have him stay in power. So right now he's slightly favored. So I'll just personally pick anything that just increases your chance of success. Now that we're 3rd rank and we're kind of in line inherit kingdom titles, I don't think you need that much merit right now. Instead, you're going to start wanting to switch to getting influence in order to do some of those actions that I just took before. So yeah, we're kind of low on influence right now, so definitely good to replenish. Okay, cool. So we did win the debate, although it was a 50-50 there. So we got some influence, a lot of prestige, and now we're the leader of that movement. So if we come back over here to the political movements, we are now the movement leader. So that will let me build that building. If we go to our liege council, let's take a look at the chancellery. We are actually decently within line. If you look at our candidate score here, being a movement leader is actually a huge amount for becoming a minister. And again, the main difference between us is that these guys have the first and second rank. When you are a minister, you get a decent amount of merit income. This is the only place where base merit matters, but by the time you become a minister, you really don't need that much more. We've been promoted to now hold a kingdom level governorship. Our income might increase. Okay, so my merit per month didn't increase as much from the duchy as I would have liked, probably because that one duchy was really profitable. If anything, we can check to see if our taxes are maximized. So my control is maxed, and we can also look at our subjects, make sure just our vassal taxes are doing good. So everything looks pretty healthy here. There's no rightful liege penalties here. So looks like income wise, that's all maxed out. But the important part is that we are now a king level governor. So we will never be given a duchy level governorship anymore. We will only have king level titles that are higher than the 8th prominence. So like the one that I was trying to covet for, this one's 2nd prominence. We're also eligible for empire tier titles, which the minister titles here are actually considered empire tier. We're like 5th in line for that one. And we're actually 1st in line for this one. So I can't murder him though. Maybe I could try to murder this guy. Let me execute this one just so that guy's gone. Okay, so he died. And actually looks like because I killed him, the ministry title was inherited by someone else, and then just caught a cascade of inheritances so that now I am actually a minister of justice. Exactly what I wanted anyways. I wanted to get to the minister level. So now we can imprison vassals and courtiers, and we get a lot of influence and some prestige. So that's actually pretty good. We don't have any more lands to take care of. We have a lot of treasury, although we can't really spend it anywhere. There's no imperial armies that we can do because we're just a regular minister. So the best thing I can do right now is just to try to get myself here, but there's going to be a lot of murders. Another good thing though is that the ministers are usually kind of old. Like this Grand Chancellor is already dying because, you know, it takes a whole lifetime to get to the 1st rank. So just by virtue of us being super healthy, you can even just outlive people and get to that rank. These guys are all just like not doing too hot later in life. I totally forgot to mention this, but as your children get older, the child can be sent to take the children's exam. So they'll start out with a higher maximum rank. Well, let's see if my son passes it. All right, he failed. Both of them are failures. Disgrace to the family, disgrace to the cow. I got my first dynasty legacy, so we can just go for righteousness to just make it so that every heir has an advantage for the capital exam. So we can naturally just have an heir that has a better merit rank. You could also just go for blood. That way, if you have genius traits, you could just have your heirs being really smart. Just for this playthrough, I'll just go for righteousness. That way we can just thematically play along. I leveled up my mansion to 3. Now I can get the final servants quarter upgrade, which also gives another hostile scheme and some more hostile scheme success and speed. So this will definitely help once it's done. These are maxed out, so let's just try it out. All right, it's okay if we get found out. We're already a known murderer anyways. So now we became the Minister of Rights. That's 6th prominence. Here's a pop-up. Flavor wise, it's kind of cool. So remember how we asked our Minister of Rights to have a free activity? So now the vassals of the Emperor are coming to me to ask me to give them some treasury so that their activity's free. And as the minister, we don't really use the treasury for anything, so I usually just accept to play along with the theme. It's kind of cool, but it can get tedious that you have to accept every one of these requests. All right, and this one's also ready, so let's try this one out. Okay, so yeah, for some reason we keep getting found out because our secrecies is not good enough, but now we upgraded even more. We're now Ministry of Revenue, and we are 4th prominence. So I believe the only higher ones would be these top 3. It looks like if I murder the censor, I can actually become the censor. So let's try to do that. For this one, I might want to spend some money and influence that I've been saving up to get some better agents. The censor is actually the spy master per se of the emperor, and this guy's intrigue is really bad. So he's like the worst censor possible. If I didn't mention it yet, when you're playing as a minister, you don't want to start attending events because it'll actually pause you from being able to inherit stuff. That's why when one of these ministers dies, even if someone was higher ranked than us, they might have gotten removed just because they're traveling or they're busy doing something. So at this point, you don't really want to do too much. Looks like I caught typhus though, but so did the censor. Nice. Now that we're the censor, so it's going to be a lot easier to get rid of this Grand Chancellor. And the reason we want to be the Grand Chancellor is because he's the Secretary Director. That means that he's sharing power with our Emperor. Eventually, I could overthrow the Emperor. The other way you can do it is if you prune the entire succession line of the Emperor, then the next person to inherit will actually be the Secretary Director. The one other step I'd like to do while I'm preparing to take over this guy's role, I'm actually going to try to abduct the Emperor, because you can see he actually has 29 kids. So there's a lot of people in this line of succession. So in order to prevent him from having more kids and also from his kids having grandkids, I'm going to abduct him so he can't make more kids, and I'm going to slowly prune off this entire line. Sometimes I might even want to stay being the censor for a bit because I get all these nice bonuses. You can see our schemes are really successful because we have so much intrigue and so many perks. And the new system is really funny because you can rapidly do a lot of murders, as we'll see in a bit. First, let me murder this guy. All right, easy. This guy's 95, so let's murder this guy. All right, doesn't matter that everyone hates us. You want to pass just like a day so that these can disappear. Otherwise, if I click murder right now, it's going to replace the first scheme, which is the abduct the Emperor scheme. Let's pass one day and let's continue our little murder spree. In the beginning, my page was filled with just studying and traveling around. Now I'm just going to be staring at this intrigue tab the entire time. So let's get rid of all these imperial princes. And if you ever do fail murdering these guys, you can always just abduct them and then just torture or execute them. I know these words do wonders for the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, you can see it just takes a few days. Like, we're going by really quick. So I prioritize the adults so there's less kids, and we're a powerful family now. Now we can look at another thing, which is the powerful family attribute. So in the celestial government tab, you'll see that we have my family, where I can influence careers and promote people to try to get them to be landed. There's also noble families, which is very similar to the roads to power admin government. But basically the family attribute here, you can either have honor, which is just reduced men and arms cost, and also just more movement power per fame. Integrity, which has more candidate score based on your poet trait. This works nicely because if you remember from the study, you can actually have a chance to get the poet trait. Otherwise, I like it because of the hostile scheme length here, which is funny because it's integrity. Righteousness is also a nice way where your house members have a better chance of taking exams. So hopefully some of your heirs just rank up fast enough that when you die, you don't have to keep playing school simulator. Ritual is the only place where I found children can inherit some merit based on succession. If you rack up a lot of merit, then potentially they could just rank up really fast that way too. I haven't tested these enough to see which one's the best. They all have some nice pros and cons. For now, we can actually maybe just spend some influence to swap ourselves to integrity just so I can have faster schemes. I actually have enough influence to upgrade, but I'm going to save this influence since we're going to need it. It's funny because this little spy master rank is actually ourselves. Cool. So now we are the max level of merit. So now I don't need to study or do any stressful things. So I'll get rid of studying. And instead we'll study the blood of the Emperor. And sometimes, like, I've been staring at this screen now for like 2 years straight. You might want to like zoom out just to make sure the Empire is not collapsing or something big is happening. So don't forget to get out of the binge murdering spree to just take a look at the situation. And then there was one. Okay, potentially the cycle has changed to tension. So when we do inherit the Empire, you'll see that in the tension era, the Emperor has automatic vassal opinion minus 20 and also just less taxes and expensive army cost. We also see that everyone else in the group basically also has reduced vassal opinion. Flavor wise, it's just to make the entire area very tense and potentially just more rebellions. When it's in this era as the spy master, your other job could be to just kill all these other claimants. That way there's never a claimant war. For the hegemony of China, it's male only. So you only really need to get rid of these male claimants. But if a female one has press claims, that means that their sons will also inherit claims. So you could just get rid of them as well. So we're almost done cleaning up our new house. So you'll see when we kill this lady, there's new claimants. Those are her children. So we just got to get rid of them as well. Okay. And you can see we got rid of the last heir, and actually we became the first in line. So it looks like it's skipping over this secretary director and we're going to be the primary heir. So actually, if we do just execute him, we should take it over. Okay. So I'll actually save the game. This way I could just show you both ways. So this one way is to just murder every heir, and then usually the chancellor or whoever's the secretary director will inherit. For some reason it's me, so let's just try it out. Okay, so it actually worked out this way. I am the new HuangDi. So yeah, that's one way to become the new emperor. Let's check out the other way. All right, so the other way would be to take over this secretary director. Let's just see if he has us at level 6. So next we're gonna murder this guy to take over his spot, and And you can see now that we're first rank, we have the highest score. We're definitely going to inherit. Okay, so let's see if this glitches out or not. Because sometimes I notice if I murder him, I actually get skipped over for this. I have to like get rid of my governorship. So let's see, he dies. And you can see it says I'm called to become Secretary Director because it thinks I should have inherited. You can see that I'm still first in line and it's not me that inherited, it's this guy. So I'll show you how to get this, even though it's buggy right now. This could be one way where you can just keep murdering this guy and you'll just keep getting this event right now, which gives you 5 scales of power. So if your liege's secretary power is really low, you just keep killing this guy. Okay, so I have the murder plot ready now. Okay, we're gonna step down to get rid of the Censorate. If that doesn't work, then you have to go to the council and manually leave. But let's resume appointments. And if I check the chancellery, I should be first in line. And let's get rid of him. And so finally, I am actually the Grand Chancellor. All right, now we could eventually take the overthrow the liege. We just need to spend 4 years being Secretary Director. So usually it's actually faster just prune the entire tree and make sure you're the next in line. Yeah, you could just do that. Although it looks like it's actually a little glitched right now. It said I was Grand Chancellor, but I'm actually the HuangDi. But anyways, that's my guide on how to become the Emperor of China. So it does take a lot of studying at first, and then a little bit of intrigue to finally plant yourself into the Emperorhood. Okay, now that I am the Emperor, a few things have changed. So first is our succession is now primogeniture. So your heirs will always inherit. So now I don't really need to have buildings like these commander appointments. Same thing with like the powerful family attribute. We technically don't need this nice merit inheritance anymore because we are the emperor. And you can see we don't actually care about merit at all anymore. We are now back to just legitimacy. Another thing, we are always sharing with the secretary director. So you do actually need to pay attention and make sure that you never get overthrown yourself. For a council, now that you are in control of the empire, the AI won't use the automatic merit succession. You're going to be able to appoint them yourself. So you can just appoint whoever you want, including your children. So if I just look at dynasty, I could just appoint my son, including my heir. Some of the council positions are very familiar, like this just your regular chancellor, your spy master. But we'll see that the Grand Marshal, he actually has trained commanders and lead troops. This is new where the Marshal himself gets more advantage and some modifiers for being a commander, versus the rest of the Marshal duties are actually here on the Minister of War. Same thing here with the Minister of Revenue. He has a lot of the traditional steward tasks, and you'll see development is down here. And normally I would always say increase development, but specifically for China, the next one is support great projects, which can be really long. So you definitely want to decrease that. Great projects are accessed by going to the decision tab. You'll see that there are projects here, and you're going to want to take on as many of these as you can. And if we zoom in, you can almost see some of the activities start going on. So here there's an established control project. Once this project is complete in 4 years, this entire duchy will have increased control and also this bonus. And these are the vassals or ministers that contributed to it. Let's scroll down to a new one that hasn't been done yet. So let's say we want to construct a great barracks. We're going to have the starting cost of our treasury, and we're going to be able to choose a location and only in the green spots. So let's like pick right here. And then you'll see that all those slots for the contributions are now empty. This is for yourself or your vassals to contribute. So you literally need 9,260 treasury, which we don't have enough, but if we did, we could get 24 legitimacy. And if all of these contributions are funded, then this project will start. And once it's completed, this holding will get this little building. And you can see here, you can actually ask people to contribute. You could even ask other people by using influence or offering hooks. So naturally over time, these should get covered. And if not, you can go directly from your treasury to fill these up. The other important thing is all of these projects are going to help you with the dynastic cycle. So I'm going to touch up a little more on this now because now is more important. Since we're the emperor, we would prefer this current era to go from tension to advancement or expansion. These are more positive eras where everyone gets bonuses and our realm is a little more stable. Versus the current era, like I said before, there's a lot of minus vassal opinions, so everything's a little unstable. And the worst thing is you definitely don't want it to go to the division era. Division means that if you look at the emperor, your government's dissolved. So if this bar ever fills up while you're the emperor, your realm will be shattered and China will be divided again. If you look at the catalysts, if your legitimacy is 0, it says it as well. If you get to 0, then it activates an event that says you lose the mandate of heaven. Basically, you lost your divine right to rule. So it instantly caps out this division era and you immediately destroy China. Here you can see every time the emperor is murdered, it adds minus 100 towards division. That's why I only abducted him instead of continuously murdering him. But basically, there's just a lot of things that will make you go towards division. But the biggest ones is you definitely want to increase your legitimacy and you don't want to lose your lands. If you scroll towards the bottom, you'll see a few things about the great projects. So you see if the Great Wall is upgraded or if you use the Sinus area, then division will become actually reduced. While it reduces it here, if we actually go into expansion, you also see that it also pushes it towards one of these two positive eras when those great projects are done. So it is very important to try to get as many of those projects done as you can afford. You'll also notice that now at the bottom here to remove division, you'll see that the favored movement is pro-song. So now it's important to actually care about which movement's in power. And it's also important if you look at, let's say, advancement. If the advancement era is favored, then there's plus 35. But also it's okay if pro-song movement is favored, it's still at least plus 20. And you can change what you want to favor down here. So you can spend some influence to just favor one of these two. You can also favor movement to decide between pro-song, expansion, or whatever. And then the other two options here are you can spend influence to push towards or away from one of the eras. The top here being pushing towards the positive ones, or the bottom here, you can push away from the division. And then the last one is a lot of influence. You'll see that there's 25 more progress expansion. So it's not a lot, but that is one way to spend your influence. If you go to the political movements, you as the emperor, you can also ask people to just join your movement. You can slowly get people to just join your side so they stop trying to divide your country. Right now, it's good that these three positive ones have most of the movement power. You just don't want them to be conservative or unaligned. Let's quickly talk about the treasury and gold again. So gold again is for your own estate. So your own buildings are still gold. You also have your own personal military or men-at-arms, which is also based on gold. And you can see the recruitment costs are insane. Thankfully, at least though, the maintenance costs are not terrible. And you'll see your provincial armies, you'll see that they're increased based on treasury and they're maintained with treasury. So this is kind of your second resource of gold to kind of just increase the size of troops. And if you look at your realm conveniently, everything's also upgraded with treasury. So if you hover over it, you'll see that 98% of your actual taxes go straight into the treasury. And same thing with your huge amount of vassal taxes. Most of it goes right into the treasury. So then you're wondering, where on earth is this 1400 treasury? Well, a lot of it's going into the budget. So that can be viewed by in the realm tab. If you go to laws, there's a treasury budget down here. So let's just manage it. And this is where CK3 gets a little bit accounting like, but it is pretty simple in general. So if you just look here, like this salary is going to be paid to all your vassals. So if we like just click on, let's say some smaller vassal, like right here. So budget wise, the salary is literally going to this person's gold versus the ministry budget is literally going to your ministers here, which I haven't really figured out how they can best spend the money. And then the military budget is going to your commandants. So like this guy right here, this plus 12 here, part of it is from the military budget. So you can kind of help out the certain branches of vassals by giving more salary there. So let's say like ministry is kind of high right now. You can decrease this, but you'll get like a minus 40 opinion from them for a few years and then increase the military so that they get a little more spending. I think by default, the game makes it so that you have 20% unallocated. This surplus is part of what gets back to you so that you actually have treasury to build more buildings and also to just recruit more troops. You'll see if we do go to war, it's going to drain from both the gold and from the treasury. There is a treasury event. You can either keep the allocations the same or just have him do it. I usually do balanced, or you could just do the imperial one. Going back to here, you'll see that there are some extra laws. You can read most of them. We'll just go over the ones that are a little different. So for this one right here, you'll see that the Grand Chancellor is the one who becomes the secretary, and the emperor at certain points in time can change it to either the Grand Marshal or the censor. So the Marshal is if the movement is expansion, or the censor if the movement is conservative being favored. So sometimes if while you're trying to become emperor, the current emperor changes the law to prefer someone else, then that might change which position you're trying to vie for in order to become the secretary. So just keep your eyes open on who the director is. That way you can just get their position. And another thing to help your realm develop a little better is if you go to the Vassal Contracts and modify their other contracts, especially for king level ones, you'll see that a lot of people are on standard and they'll just get 80% merit per month, but you can have up to 8 that are industrial, which gives them more bonuses so they could build out your realm a little faster. And if you were in the advancement one, then you'll have this metropolitan administration where there's a huge amount of merit, there's more taxes, and those taxes feed up back to you in the form of treasury. Same thing with the expansion. Instead of just having regular military, you can also have protectorates, which will give them even more bonuses to their men-at-arms. And it also even allows you to just summon your vassal to war. So it's kind of cool where you really are playing like a central authority and delegating the expansion to your vassals instead of directly controlling imperial troops. In the Courtier section, I'll just point out some ones that are kind of interesting. You have the Grand Preceptor, which gives you a lot of influence, so you should always have someone. He also has 2 really good tasks like getting development growth or even renown, and these 2 are usually worth it. And you'll see that the salary is actually paid in treasury. The Grand Guardian also has this cool guard the capital task, which seems like it's just these bonuses, but actually this holding gets this little buff that gives you a lot more men-at-arms damage and importantly a bonus plague resistance. As the Emperor, you also have the Grand Mentor, and this guy can give you a lot of lifestyle experience or renown, or give you a lot of influence and just make your governors increase their skills. You even have this Keeper of the Harem, and over here you can have her select palace beauties for you. And as the HuangDi, you can have up to 20 concubines thanks to these court machinations. So yeah, you can have crazy amount of kids, kind of like the previous guy. He had like 30 children. So that's very thematic. For your holdings, you can either hold a lay clergy style where you have the main capital barony and then all the little baronies as well. Just remember that the little baronies have 1 less building than the capital one. So long-term wise, it's still best to just only hold the capitals. Although you're going to have to slowly go through your subjects and just slowly revoke their appointments. And this will spend a lot of influence. You also might need to get used to spending a lot of prestige because you have a permanent diarch. So just remember that if the diarch gets too strong, then everything is going to cost a lot of prestige and you're not going to be able to do simple stuff. Even things like where your vassals are imprisoned, if you revoke the appointment, sometimes it'll just cost too much prestige to revoke everything. So definitely keep his power low. You can also start hosting the capital examination. This will be a big source of legitimacy. And you can actually select it to be either learning based, martial based, or stewardship based, but these require those certain cycles. So usually I just keep on learning. Another tip is when appointing a Grand Marshal, you do want someone with a, high marshal, but if their health is poor, then they'll die and it'll kind of glitch out the grand campaign. So you actually want to get someone who's relatively young, like this guy has good marshal and he has good health. But just for an example, let's just put this really unhealthy guy. So we have already a grand campaign. It's starting out right here. And if we click on this campaign, you'll see you can't contribute at all, but you can get your Grand Marshal and they will automatically contribute. But let's just do it manually since I just got him. So for this grand campaign, my Marshal is pledged to conquer this duchy here. So as long as we control at least 50% of those titles, then we'll gain a good amount of legitimacy. Otherwise, we'll get some negative catalyst and we don't want that. So let's pass a bit of time. In fact, he died before he could even join. So let's put someone else. Let's try that again. Okay, so this Grand Marshal is pledged to start that campaign, which he has here. And so the campaign is going onwards. And you also see that some of the other vassals, they can also pledge to conquer other areas. If you actually take a look, his military strength by himself is not too bad actually. He also uses money to hire mercenaries. But like, let's say if we think this guy can't handle it, naturally, as long as you have a minister of war, he'll send some of your other military governors to join, or you could manually go to your Grand Marshal and just have a military governor join his war with him. All right, thanks for making it this far. That's my guide on how to become the Emperor of China, and hope it helped you in some way. If you like this video, please subscribe and give a like. It helps me tremendously, so thank you so much. Also, before I close out this video, I have one more hilarious intrigue build to share with you. I have a 43-year-old man here. We're starting with a level 5 intrigue education. I have sadistic so that we can scheme against our children. I have the schemer trait for intrigue and to make the schemes faster. I have burdened just to reduce the point point cost, and I could offer potential agents a strong hook. I have strong and whole of body just so I can live longer, and improvident is also just for the points. But 5 points into intrigue. We don't technically need sadistic, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Let's check out my intrigue lifestyle. I'm gonna go for skullduggery for the extra intrigue. I got the seducer tree, and that's fine because it'll actually still help us out with our first step, but I will work on getting to kidnapper. Let's first get a spy master and have them support schemes, and we're immediately gonna go to our liege and to his title. Let's take a look at the claimants. We're gonna look for any princesses with press claims, because if we have kids with them, then our children will inherit a unpressed claim if they die. So like this first princess, she doesn't have a spouse right now, so we can't invite her immediately and we can't abduct her. So let's first seduce her. And I'm also gonna refuse any further appointments because I don't want to be interrupted. And she'll usually get a husband, so just make sure he's out of the picture. And thankfully our seduction chance is pretty good. Sometimes it can be reduced if she happens to like her husband, but that would just make it more important to get rid of this guy before you finish this seduction scheme. All right, so let's attempt to seduce her. All right, she's now our lover, so let's wait until we can murder her husband. And we have an event where this child is born out of wedlock. Let's just hope that it's our dynasty. Okay, so I'm ready to murder the husband. All right, and as soon as he's dead, then you immediately want to invite your lover to court. And I'm going to slow down time just to make sure she doesn't immediately get remarried. So I'm going to wait for her to land in my court. All right, there she is in my court. And now I'm going to arrange a marriage with her. All right, cool. So now I have to just wait until we can get a child together. And since she's not the only princess, we can go to our liege and then just work our way down this list. And we have as many chances as we need to get heirs with claims. This other sister, though, isn't attracted to us, so we won't be able to seduce her. So you're going to have to just abduct her if possible. If not, you can wait until these two get a little older. So we got a newborn son, and he's our dynasty. So now we're actually going to get rid of our lover, and she actually gave birth to a second son. All right, so now let's get rid of the wife. Now that she died, if you take a look at your sons, they're going to have an unpressed claim on the hegemony of Song. We're going to wait until we get the kidnapper perk, and then we can abduct our liege. So we're going to be able to abduct our liege now. This part might take a while because the phases are usually pretty long. All right, so let's try to abduct our liege. So once your liege is abducted, we can go to the factions and we can create a claimant faction with our son to take over his main title. This is one reason why I refused appointments. That way I can stay as his direct vassal, because only direct vassals can create these claimant factions. All right, and you can immediately press demands, and he's probably going to refuse, and war it is. But since he's in our jail already, that means we win instantly. So my son is now the new ruler of the entire hegemony. And if you look into the line of succession, we're right there at number 3. All we have to do is use the sadistic trait to get rid of these two sons. I would recommend getting rid of this non-emperor son first before killing him, because if you remember, this will change the dynastic cycle. So I just passed one day and you can see it's already cycled attention. If someone were to press their claim against our son right now and we lost, then that would immediately push the era towards division and the empire will actually shatter apart instantly. So the other option, instead of immediately murdering your sons, is you can actually wait for your natural death, because you see that when we die, we're going to play as our son anyways. Since we're really good at intrigue right now, you can actually support your son and just keep taking out the factions or other claimants for him. In fact, if we became emperor, because we have sadistic and fornicator, then people are going to really dislike us. So supporting him from the shadows is not a bad idea. But let me just show you how fast you can become emperor. All right, one son was killed. All right, and then we're going to get rid of our other son. Okay, so within 11 years, we became the new emperor of China. So that was just a funny intrigue bill you can try out. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks again from Bread God, and hope you have a good day.